Alright guys, TouchCommitted back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Wednesday. Day 3 here on the Ghetto setup. Today, I wanted to roll it back to CDL London. Of course, it just happened this weekend. While it's fresh in the mind, I wanted to talk about the key changes I would like to see for the June event. Last year was probably, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. Absolutely phenomenal event run by Gfinity. And there were certain reasons why I would say last year's event was better than this year's event. Even though this year's event was fantastic, I'd still give it like an 8, 8.5, whatever, out of 10 over the course of it. But there were some issues that definitely weren't existing last year that we can obviously talk about, and hopefully for the June event, which is coming up in just a few months time. Just to note, if you guys are planning on traveling to the June event, it will be probably a busy and expensive weekend because I believe the Euros, so the Euros are a European football competition. That's soccer for most of you guys who are watching this in the USA. So yeah, that's what's going on at the same time. The hotels are going to be expensive, they're probably going to be booked, the train tickets are going to be expensive, all of this sort of stuff. So probably if you are if you are thinking of going, I'd highly recommend it. Think about getting in early because tickets and train tickets and all that stuff will probably sell out kind of quickly. So that is just an FYI. Like, if you guys enjoy it, subscribe if you're new as always. Really appreciate your thoughts in the comment section below as well for this one, for those of you who attended, for those of you who are watching at home, because of course a pretty different experience in both boats, right? So first of all, Adam Goddard points out this to me on Twitter. There was a patch that went live yesterday. I talked about it very briefly, I think, in yesterday's video. It does look like a battle royale is going to come to the game. Wanted to skim over this, but I heard some rumors this morning that you might even have to pay for it in addition to on the top. So, in addition to what's shipped with the game. This also happened yesterday, so subscribing at CDL Intel. Links, of course, down in the description box below. CDL playlist is live. You can now play Hardpoint Domination or Search and Destroy in the CDL mode. It's not ranked yet, unfortunately, but this is at the very least a step in the right direction. You can play proper modes. Unfortunately, streaks aren't banned in this as they are in professional play, so you are still playing a somewhat of a different game, but definitely a step in the right direction. Wanted to run through this as well. So this is Charlie Intel's article on some of the things that have changed. Trophy system deploy time has been reduced by about half a second. Pretty big deal for competitive play. Trophy systems definitely are not in an ideal state right now. Pros would like them to be a little bit better than they are at the current time. Some bug fixes as well. Then we got perk 1 slots. Double time has changed, so double the recharge rate of tactical sprint apparently. So that honestly could be a really valuable perk, and I'm not exactly sure what it did before. I think maybe it improved like how quickly you could crouch walk or something like that, but that's a pretty important change. And then we have in the perk 3 slots battle hardened changes as well, but I don't think they're going to be affecting things too much, although point man improvement could affect things for a GB search and destroy if streaks aren't banned in that. But I haven't played a GB in a long time, so maybe they are in fact banned now. A couple of important things. So remove specialist restrictions. I imagine that's referring to specialist, a specialist perk system that we have in the game right now in the Call of Duty League. Not exactly sure what this is going to be referring to. Please let me know in the comment section below. And then in Codcaster, a couple of key points here. Player health levels are now displayed on the background of their portraits. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And also, player numbers are now displayed in the minimap and are larger when viewed on the full map. And keyboard and mouse Codcasters, it's possible to bring up field upgrades by pressing a key in the same way as they can with kill streaks. This also shows the exact progress that each player has until they unlock their respective field grade, and keyboard and mouse will be what observers at the CDL are using now that they're based on. I'm pretty sure the entire thing is based on PC platform now, even though the game is still of course played with controllers. Now, one of the interesting things here, so, CodGamepedia says, this is really cool to see some of these changes for the Codcaster. Definitely some steps in the right direction. But one of the rather incredible things that I saw here on Twitter was from Brian Sate. How are these things not tested? This video is what he's referring to here, and this is pretty unbelievable. So, he's looking at the Allies here. So this is his Minnesota team. And you can see up in the top right hand corner as it's about to come back on screen that these player numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you go and look down at the minimap highlighted on a seam, guess what you have? It's in fact number 7. So the teams, in fact, despite being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 on the in the top right, the top left, when you look down at the minimap, it's actually flipped the other way around, which if anything actually makes it more difficult for Codcasters to actually keep track of which players are where. Regardless. Step in the right direction, but it genuinely does boggle the mind how they can make a change. And did anyone actually, they made the change, they changed the code, whatever, did anyone actually hop into a game to test this, to see if everything matched up? I imagine from my perspective, it seems like they did not, because this is something that really shouldn't be, going under the radar. But Maven does then come down later and say, that's interesting, sent to the team that should be able to fix this. So, you know, clearly some steps in the right direction right now. And then Brian Sake comes out with, Codcaster is also very frame ratey right now as well. I can barely watch scrims without having a headache. Talking about the fact that, you know, the frame rate is really low, some optimization issues clearly with this this patch. It seems like if there's 2 steps forward, there's always at least 1 step back, if not a few more. But let's go on to London. So first of all, this is the schedule for the entire rest of the season. We had London just this past weekend, Atlanta February 22nd, 23rd, Los Angeles, early March, Dallas in March, 3 events throughout April, Minnesota, Paris in May, New York and London again in June, in addition to Toronto right at the very end. So 20th to the 21st of June, we're going to be back in London. So of course, some key things to talk about. Why was this year's event slightly, you know, lower tier than the previous one? And what I wanted to start off with was different teams working on the production of the event. To my understanding of this event, last year's event we had Gfinity running it, they did a stellar job, and also they did a stellar job in terms of the open bracket. Like, they were even better than MLG in the sense that they put out the brackets for the open bracket stuff on their website long before the event even went live. MLG have even struggled to do that themselves, despite obviously being able to run fantastic events in the past with the team that is now Esports Engine. This time, instead of Gfinity running it, it was Belong. I'm not exactly sure what the politics behind all that, but apparently there was some like sub-entity of Esports Engine helping run it. Definitely some communication issues in terms of running the event. So definitely some things that can be improved upon. What I wanted to look at first of all then was this Call of Duty 2020 League London peak statistics. You know, people were talking about these average statistics, saying that 44,000 is not good for average matches. And, you know, I don't disagree with your point in that instance. However, that, you know, there was obviously some good matches, some good viewership at least here, especially in these Chicago matches, as you would expect. But even Dallas-London, 82,000 or 81,000 and a half is still pretty good going, to be honest. Now, what I wanted to look at here was this average viewership, just in terms of the way the event was structured, and really go into the scheduling of the event, because it's no secret that on the Sunday it was not ideal. Like, first of all, people had to wake up ridiculously early in the morning in the States to watch that. That's part of the reason why this average viewership number was so low. But also, on the Sunday, things got delayed very, very significantly indeed. We were already a little bit behind schedule. Then we had this hype battle that went on main stage. Well, it wasn't actually on main stage, it was done on the desk. But MattG was still playing a Challengers game, so they needed to get him in. Apparently, they were actually going to use, like, maybe the twins from, or at least one of the twins from the London team. But that stuff didn't work out in the end. So there were so many delays, and then that happened. And then the next match started late, and then it was like a 3-2, and it's a late one. And all of a sudden, the event was meant to finish at 9:30 at night, which is a reasonable time, allows people to get to their train at 10:30 or whatever the last train back time is. However, the event ended up finishing at about 11:10, and it really caused issues for the crowd because it didn't feel like there was so much on the line here. It wasn't well advertised that there was in fact a prize pool for this event. 50,000 for first, 30,000 for second, 10,000 for third and fourth respectively. So it wasn't really advertised there was a prize pool, there wasn't a trophy standing in the middle of the teams that was there to be claimed. So honestly, a lot of people in the crowd right at the end cleared out, which is something you wouldn't expect to happen for Chicago versus Dallas, but they hadn't prepared a hotel for the night because they thought the event was going to finish earlier, and at the end of the day, they just thought, well, the best thing to do is just to leave. It's not worth all that extra money and that extra hassle by, you know, staying for a game, Chicago versus Dallas, which maybe doesn't even matter that much. There's no trophy in the middle. Who even knows if there's a prize pool on display? Of course, if that's better advertised, that shouldn't be an issue, but also the scheduling is a big deal. And I want to talk about the potential of a Bravo stream, and I don't think this is something that will happen. I know that the CDL don't want to split viewerships between streams, but last year we had a main stage on one side of the auditorium, and on the other side we had the Bravo Charlie Delta stage, and then we had all the Challenger stuff going on behind. This year, all we had was one side, a main stage, and all the way at the back we had the Challenger stuff. This wasn't as good, not only for the Challengers players, but also for the, you know, the fans trying to watch things, because look, you got a game like Paris versus Toronto on the early morning. And if I was at home, that is a really good game that doesn't make too much difference to me. I'm not particular fans of either team. Yes, they've got some UK guys on each squad, but whoever wins, you never feel like they're going to go on and win the event, right? So Paris versus Toronto is a prime example of a game that in previous titles would have been placed on a Bravo stream when you got a big game at the front. Now, some of you guys may disagree whether this should be fair or not, and of course there is a degree to which teams who have paid equal amounts of money should of course get the same amount of airtime. in the auditorium, it wasn't too bad because there was the Challengers stuff going on at the back. So, you know, I could go to the back and watch the Singularity games, watch my boy Benji, you know, win the championship and all of that stuff. Could watch all the open bracket stuff from the back, which is fine while keeping an eye on the Paris-Toronto stuff. However, if I was at home, that's probably a game that I would barely even be paying attention to because you feel like down the line that's not going to make a big difference. So, you know, really having a Bravo station means that you can have more meaningful matches on Alpha and also, you know, open up the possibility to not overrunning the schedule and also potentially even going for a double elimination bracket once those final 4 teams are realised, rather than you have 4 teams left and then it's just 3 series towards the end of the tournament, whereas the group stages pretty much take up the entire tournament right until the middle of Sunday. So, I understand they're going to go forward with that, most likely, but I still do think it's a reason why last year's event was better than this year, and maybe there's something else you could consider about that. Of course, the key point is for us in the venue, at least we had Challengers to watch. If Challengers was available also to watch from home, that would have made a huge impact, and that's obviously something I've talked about in the past. It really should be streamed. There are no excuses, in my opinion, especially because they brought the players out on stage at the end to show first, second, and third. Why not have that streamed on a separate stream? At least if you're not going to do a Bravo stream, at least have something else people can watch to keep them interested in Call of Duty when there's a match going on, which maybe they're not too involved in. Now, this is something that Anthony and Marissa point out here in my YouTube comments. While I appreciate the viewership was good, the production quality was awful the entire event. Audio issues, listening to when no one was talking, white balance was different on every camera, exposure was different, robotic voices, 0 crowd sounds, bound viewing angles, which showed small crowd, etc. And obviously this is something we weren't really exposed to in the venue, but definitely the audio was an issue. At the start of the event, yeah, the players' perspective we were seeing on screen didn't match up with the audio we were hearing. The casters were pretty much inaudible the entire event. We couldn't basically hear anything the casters were saying. I think they lowered the crowd volume significantly. Maybe that's because we were chanting some kind of risque stuff, which is understandable, but at the same time, it felt like maybe there should have been more crowd sound on stream, especially how, you know, loud the crowd was at times. So definitely at home, I think they could have done a better job from the production perspective. Hopefully that's something they'll step up in future. And I think really that comes down to the fact that it was the pretty disjointed teams organising this and, you know, some unfortunate circumstances all around. Then you have this, from an actual Challengers player's perspective, the whole venue is vibrating. Feel for Train Hard and Singularity playing at a final like this. There we go, we got the light back on. You know, so 0 consideration. Dead Silence was a very useful specialist this weekend. That was one of the big issues, right? Playing in a massive venue like this with so much noise, and the Challengers are right at the back. That was why it was so much better before, having the Challenger stuff, the open stuff on the other side of the venue, meaning that you didn't get an issue with all the crowd noises and all the music they were trying to be playing and all the advertisements, all this kind of stuff didn't affect the Challengers players. Really no consideration for that next step in Call of Duty. And then this big one, of course, from Arstees, saying that, you know, in London it feels nothing like it when you win and there's no trophy. You just walk off the main stage like you've won a pool pay match, which isn't ideal by any means. Seattle did say that they're working on getting a trophy for their event. Definitely something that the individual homestand should you know, probably have on their own back to be producing. But at the same time, that's definitely something they should step up before, having at least a trophy that the teams could raise up. You know, ending the entire tournament with just a post-match interview feels like it was nothing more than a league match at the end of the day, rather than a proper championship. But there was money on the line, so I'm personally going to count it. But I think next time there could definitely be some step-ups to be had. I'd like to see both parts of the venue be used if possible. Hopefully the attendance will be there to make that viable for sure. And yeah, we'll see how things go. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you next time.